I'm Kier from In Defense Of, a fandom inclusion and community podcast that's part of the Gun and Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on this network are individually owned, and the opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other really interesting geeky shows at gunandgeeknetwork.com.
This is the official gunandgeek.com show. Each week, we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven, Chris, and SP.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 307 of the official gunandgeek.com show. I am not Stephen John Drew. I'm not Canadian. I do have a very nice beard, much like Stephen John Drew. I'm Chris Ferrell. I'm running the board tonight, so you should be afraid, but not too afraid. I do have some backup because Stargate Pioneer is here with me.
I'm not backing up the actual board, the soundboard, but I am here as backup to do my normal thing. Chris, this is just you and me. It's just without Steven.
Are you sure about that? He's here with us in spirit right now.
Oh my gosh.
Steven's here. Steven, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're welcome, guys. It's really great to be here up in Canada, eh?
I think he's a little disappointed in. Oh, there you go.
He's
touching
now
into the actual joke here. Yeah.
So,
for those that are listening in the audio version later, or right now, actually, via Spreaker, what's happened is Steven couldn't make the podcast tonight. So what we did is we're going to go ahead and have the podcast anywhere in a short and abbreviated podcast. And the problem is that Chris doesn't have a duo board or what is it called? Layout
overlays
or whatever?
Or any layouts. Yeah.
So
problem.
We have Steven here in spirit on the third overlay, on the third spot, and he's just going to be here the entire night.
Yeah, Steven is here with us in spirit. Occasionally he might chime in if he has something important to say with one of our terrible Stephen John Drew impersonations.
I'm not going to do a Stephen John Drew impersonation, but I might talk for him.
Oh, we could put him up on screen and speak for him like he's endorsing things.
Oh,
he can finally pay us.
America. Yes, we're going to have a short abbreviated show tonight, and we're going to go through some news segments, and we have our lively chat room. So we're looking forward to a great show tonight, and we're looking forward to Steven coming back next week. It's just a one-off. He'll be back next week.
He'll be back to express how disappointed he is with us. But until then, we're going to roll on into the news. So we got a little news for you guys this week. Not a ton, but we'll share it with you and we'll move on to some other things. And I guess I will go first with my news this week. So we talked about, I want to say back in late 2016, early 2017, I think it was me that brought this up, and I was particularly geeked out about the fact that Tesla and Elon Musk were going to be introducing Tesla's solar roof tiles. And the whole plan had been they're going to make these roof tiles be of roughly the equivalent cost to what regular asphalt shingles would be that you'd put on your roof. Yeah, it didn't go so great. So Elon Musk just this last week unveiled a redesign of Tesla's roof solar tiles that they are calling the solar glass roof. This is the third redesign since we talked about this the first time. Third. Yeah, the new roof design will cost around $42,500 for a 2,000 square foot roof and will produce 10 kilowatts of solar capacity before tax credits. That's roughly $21.25 per foot. This is according to Tesla's website. They do also say pricing will vary by size and location. This roof will come with a 25-year warranty, be offered in a dark tempered glass finish to start. And Elon Musk did say he hopes to unveil new designs every 6 to 9 months. So like I mentioned, this is the third design that Tesla has come up with. And the company says that it should be cheaper and quicker to install than the previous version 2, which is what they were selling before Friday's announcement. With version 2, Musk had told reporters that they were basically trying not to lose money on each installation, in part because the roof needed additional work done after it left the factory and arrived at a home. This is supposed to be more efficient. Now, we talked about how this has been troubled. It was supposed to go on sale back in 2017. They've had a lot of problems. Design issues were a big problem at launch. Production finally began in 2018 at the second Tesla Gigafactory, which is a repurposed Solar City facility. Remember, Elon Musk also owns Solar City. That was in Buffalo, New York, but it's been extremely, extremely limited while Tesla worked on what Elon Musk was calling version 3. They have promised the roof will be simpler, faster, and more intuitive to install than previous iterations, and that the goal is to install 1,000 roofs per week in the next few months. Elon Musk said he believes the addressable market for solar glass roofs is 100 million homes worldwide. So this is stuff that sounds great in theory. But I think we've seen, they announced this back in 2017, 2016. Okay, so late 2016, early 2017, if I recall right. Didn't actually start producing units until 2018. And even then it was tapered. And now they're thinking they're going to do thousands of homes a week, which I think is a great thought in theory. But it seems like there's a lot of difficulty in putting this in place, especially once you factor in you have to hook in a Tesla Powerwall to hold energy, things like that. And Powerwalls are backordered because some people want them. I want to live in the future. I want this to be great. I want this to be something that I can put on my house and kind of live sort of off the grid, because arguably these could be more durable than a regular shingle roof. Just don't think we're there yet. And I think they're shooting for the stars on this one. I don't think they're quite going to make it. SP, would you get solar roof tiles if you had the option?
If I had the option, I probably would. Now, I would have to compare it to just retrofitting my roof with normal solar panels, which I have considered. And in this day and age, when you're talking about electricity going up, fossil fuel costs going up, and you have an awareness of global warming, whether you believe in it or not. Science, people, science. And
Science.
Yeah. And so you have all this. Yeah, I'm interested in this. I'm more interested now than ever before for a couple of reasons. I've noticed a lot of people that are starting to live off the grid or trying to at least supplement, because you have whole power grids that are going off because of natural disasters, because of wildfires, just because of normal stuff that happens to power grids. So if you're dependent upon the power grid for power, then you have no backup unless you go out and get a generator and you have to continue fueling it. And it just is not a sure thing. Whereas the solar power, as long as you have sun, I mean, even if you don't have sun, you're going to have some light. It's not going to generate the full 10 kilowatts of solar energy on the roof for 2,000 square foot roof, but it will generate something. So you'll have something to power your house. And yeah, I think this is something of the future. I think because Tesla is doing it, it is a little bit more in the news, but there are other systems out there. I just don't know how cost effective this is versus other. I have not done the cost effectiveness study between the two. And the other thing that I've been doing lately, as you know, is I've been watching a lot of sailing YouTube channels, and they're inherently off the grid, and they're trying to generate their own power. In the past, it's all been diesel generators on the boats. And now even the big boy yachts, they have as much solar as they can carry. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to power the whole boat, but they understand that it's going to increase their ability to cruise wherever they want to and have a little energy when they're off the grid. So when you consider stuff like that, if you consider stuff like people roaming around, even on land, in their vans or their RVs and trying to get power, if you consider the natural disasters, if you consider just the cost of normal energy, yeah, I'm interested in this. Now, $42,500 for a 2,000 square foot roof. I'm going to guesstimate, just if you're going to get a normal dimensional shingle roof, I think that's going to be about $37,000 more. So you're paying $37,000.
There's only so much tax credits are going to be able to help with here. And that's well and good in some areas of the country where you are incentivized for solar energy. You're not in my part of the country because West Virginia, coal is king, and they penalize you if you try and use alternative energies, actually. But I think the smart thing they're doing here is they're branding this under the Tesla name. The Solar City name wasn't going to do it, but if you brand it with Tesla, people think of the cars and electric cars, things like that. It's a cool little tie-in, and it kind of builds towards the dream that a lot of people have had when it comes to energy independence. I don't know if we talked about it on this show, but other shows on the internet have talked about the fact there's those power outages in California right now. The one power company is turning off the grid to prevent forest fires from their hung cables starting fires in the dried out forests. And what has been noticed there is tons of people are without power, but there's a lot of people that have these Tesla power walls that still have their power. They have air conditioning. They can power any medical equipment they might have in the house. They can keep all their utilities running, stuff like that. And if you could combine the Tesla Powerwall with the solar roof, you might be able to get away from having to use the grid as much. These folks that live in these areas of California, they're having days at a time of no power. With the combination of the solar roof and the Powerwall, they're probably good for 3-5 days maybe, depending on how many Powerwalls they have installed. And that would be great.
Say you lived in Puerto Rico and your house wasn't completely destroyed by the hurricane that hit down there, and you had to wait months, perhaps even a year, for the power grid to be rebuilt. So yeah, it's self-reliance is becoming a bigger and a bigger issue, depending on where you live. And I will argue even in like the Midwest, where like power rarely goes out. Well, you got tornadoes in the Midwest, and tornadoes have been on the upswing the last year, at least. I mean, I've been in the direct path of 2 major tornadoes in Wisconsin and here at my house. And so, yeah, I am considering something like this for a lot of different reasons. Again, the price is a bit high, and that is not including the Tesla Powerwall, right?
Correct. That is not the Powerwall. That is just the solar roof. And the Powerwall's not cheap. And the last I checked, because I get fascinated and go down rabbit holes about Teslas and Powerwalls and stuff. Last YouTube videos I was watching about them were people talking about they've been on a waiting list for their Powerwall for months, or they're in an area of the country where Tesla's not licensed to install the Powerwalls yet, so they can't get them. So you can't get a Powerwall everywhere. But the concept of this, the technology is fascinating about where we might get one day. Drive your electric car that you power with your solar roof.
And I need to get a little bit more up to speed with the California laws and regulations, but I might be mistaken about this, but I think each new house as of, I don't know, 2020, let's just call it, has to be built with some sort of renewable energy in it.
Would not surprise me. I see. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I would say that in this case, where you have a solar roof that's going to dual as an actual roof and solar power, I get it, but it's just expensive.
Yeah, and I see in the chat room, Albert Sims is bringing up the solar roof might get blown away in a tornado. Well, the way their roof works is they're literally replacing the shingles with like these glass or semi-glass solar roof tiles. And the thought was they are supposed to be more durable and to, for lack of a term, hang on better than traditional shingles. It's just a matter of how well it works in practice. And let's be honest, they're probably not getting tornado winds in California that much.
No, but in the Midwest, what I was talking about is if your house is not hit by the tornado, the odds are if you have a tornado that's close to you, it's going to damage a significant amount of the electrical grid at some space around you, and it might be a while before you get power back. So that's really what I was referring to. If your house gets hit by a tornado, you have bigger concerns than, is my roof there or do I have power?
Yeah, that's a fair point. All right, so before we transition off this news, SP shared his opinion, I've shared my opinion. Let's throw it to our good friend in Canada. Stephen, how do you feel about Tesla roofs? Do you want one? He's skeptical, guys.
Yeah, I think he's doubtful about it. Yeah.
He can't even express his skepticism in words. He's just giving us a look with his eyebrow raised and kind of a, I don't think so, guys, look. So, Stephen, I understand.
I think that's because where he is, they have cloud cover basically from, late August, early September, all the way through May.
I think you're right. So, Stephen, I understand your skepticism. You're doing a great job communicating without using actual words. It's phenomenal how well that works on video. I'm sorry you guys here on the audio side of the house just aren't quite grasping Stephen's contribution to the news segment here as he debates the merits of these roofs.
It looks like he's enlightened by our thoughts for him right now, and he is pleased.
He is pleased. Maybe he'll start paying us. He's so pleased. We'll get those paychecks one day, SP. We'll get those paychecks, won't we, Stephen? No, we're not going to get those paychecks. That's what I see right soon. Now. That's what I see now. So that wraps up my news story. SP, what do you got for us this week?
Well, I went into our Discord server, which you can find at gonnageek.com/Discord, and I asked the question, I think it was earlier today, it might have been last night. I said, okay, what kind of news story do you want from me? Do you want a space news story? Do you want a tech news story? Do you want something along the lines of TV, film, comic books, that sort of thing? And most people, actually everybody that responded, said they wanted space news. There was one person that said that wanted to combine them. So I'm going to do my best to combine them, but we are doing a space news segment from me this week, and it happened to be a story that I saw from space.com by Mike Wall. And the title was Stratolaunch, which flew the world's biggest airplane once, sold to a mystery owner. So not the best title in the world, but it's intriguing to me. So I was like, okay, what's up with this? Well, this is what Mike Wall had to say. Stratolaunch Systems, the satellite launching venture established by billionaire Microsoft co-founder and longtime space enthusiast Paul Allen in 2011, has changed hands, the company announced earlier this month. Quote, Stratolaunch LLC has transitioned ownership and is continuing regular operations, unquote. And this is from the Stratolaunch representatives who wrote in a statement on October 11th. That statement did not identify the new owner, and we remain in the dark today. We might not actually be in the dark had we had a Tesla solar roof, but we're in the dark today as far as Stratolaunch.
I see what you did there.
Stratolaunch developed a huge dual fuselage aircraft with a 385 foot or 117 meter wingspan. It was named Rock and is designed to carry a satellite toting rocket high in the sky, actually up to 3 of them. Rock has just one flight under its belt, a 2.5 hour long test jaunt that took place this past April over California's Mojave Desert. It's unclear when the huge plane will lift off again. We'll just have to wait for more news. All right. This is my tie-in to TV, film, and tech. Ooh. So what you have going on right now is the Rock is actually a technical piece that they're going to use in the next generation of James Bond movies. And what they're going to do is they're going to use the Rock to launch 007 from wherever he is to wherever he needs to be in like 15 minutes, across the world sort of thing. And it's going to be one of those gadgets that you just see in James Bond. So I think the plane was bought by MGM. That is the mystery owner, MGM, who owns 007, right? Owns James Bond.
Sony now bought MGM and owns it, but they've got Spider-Man money, so they can afford
exactly.
This.
They used the Spider-Man money to buy the Rock so they could film the next series of James Bond movies.
Please tell me we're going to get Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in a supporting role to fly in this rocket with Daniel Craig as James Bond.
I think he's going to fly the Rock. He's going to be the Rock's pilot.
Oh, okay. I am totally on board with this, and I'm fascinated to see where it goes from there. But in all seriousness, with the transition to new ownership being anonymous, do you expect we're ever going to find out who this is? Are they going to try and just remain anonymous forever? This seems a little strange to me that a company like this, a space company like this, can retain an anonymous owner.
I'm guessing what might have happened here is whoever bought it has a bigger company in mind, or maybe an existing company, and they just want to keep these plans on the download for a few more months or so. I mean, this is a big plane. You're going to see where it's flying, right? Yeah. First of all, it only flew once for 2.5 miles. I believe the landing gear never came up, so you still have to continue flight testing of it. It apparently was pretty successful. It's got 6 huge, if you've never seen this thing, it's got 2 747 based fuselages. 2, not 1, 2. They're connected by giant wing, and then you have not 4, but 6 giant 747 engines on the wings, 3 on each side. So this thing's huge, and it's meant to launch between 1 and 3 rockets from the air. And this is a benefit because you're not wasting all your propellant to get to the first 100 meters or something like that right off the pad. So you're able to carry more weight up to orbit, but you're limited by the amount of weight that the plane can actually carry. So it is a smaller rocket, and you're not going to see a huge Saturn V rocket on this thing and launching. So there are benefits of this, and I don't know. We'll see what this sort of technology exists today. This is not a new technology. There's a couple of companies out there that have already launched rockets like this on a L-1011 and a B-52. So this sort of thing has been done before. It's not new, this technology and how it's done, but being able to do this on this scale, launching a bigger rocket or 3 in total up to space at the same time or in relatively quick succession on the same flight. Yeah, I think we're going to find out who does it. Now, I could speculate that SpaceX bought this so that they could fly their big Starliner around,
See, that's what I was going to ask, is I was like, do you think Elon Musk got it? Sir Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, one of those three probably got it and just trying to keep their name quiet until they figure out how to fold it into their bigger plans? Branson
might have, because if Branson did, he could make a bigger VSS spaceship. Mm-hmm. He could do that. Now, I do not do his company's news anymore with Steven on the show, by the way, because Steven often jokes about the company name, and there you go. He's disappointed.
He's
right there.
Smirking right now because we're calling him out. We shouldn't do that.
Yeah, so I don't do that company's name of news anymore. So if any of you are wondering, SB hasn't talked about Branson's space company in a while. Yeah, that's because Steven would just make the standard joke because of the name of the company. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just don't want to do that. So I do not talk about that company on the show.
That's fair. I don't disagree with that stance, but luckily Steven's only here in spirit, so he can't make jokes.
I think he's actually intrigued by my Sony/MGM spin on this whole thing.
Steven, how do you feel about Sony using that Spider-Man money to acquire a rocket for the James Bond movie? How does this make you feel? Again, he's skeptical.
Yeah, but it's cool. I think this would elevate Sony. This would redeem Sony, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, if you can convert Steven from being a skeptic right now, it would be miraculous, but more power to you, Sony. If you can do it and get Steven to be on board in the span of this show, you've accomplished the impossible.
It looks like he's on board right now.
It's true. He might be on board. Speaking of accomplishing the impossible, I do have what Steven's news was going to be this week. We'll touch on it real briefly. We've talked about on this show before the next generation format of SMS messaging, which is the RCS protocol. Now, Google's been really pushing this, trying to get the telecoms, that is Sprint, AT&T, Verizon, things like that, to pick up the RCS protocol to basically enable smarter messaging in Android, to give them something that's roughly an iMessage competitor. This will allow you to be able to see when people have read your messages. You can automatically read receipts, send bigger files, send them quicker, things like that. And they've been pushing it for months. And all of the carriers just came together last week and announced, we have our own plans for how to implement RCS. And we're not going to talk about Google at all. Why do I bring this up? Some intrepid, not hackers, but folks who play with different Android devices might have found a way to currently trick your Android phones into using the RCS messaging protocol now. How do you do it? You have to dig into the settings. You have to do crazy, not actual hacking, but tweaking of settings you probably don't want to mess with here in the United States. It's totally not worth it for what you can get right now. Where it gets interesting, though, is Steven's had it on his Pixel in Canada for a while. So I look forward to his next appearance on the show where he can regale us with how RCS works for him and kind of tell us what we're missing that's going to take the carriers probably 6 to 12 months for us to get here in the United States if we're lucky.
Is some of the hacking involving rooting your phone?
I don't believe it has to be rooted, but you have to go and change like different dialer configurations and different things with the cellular modem, if I remember what I read correctly, and changing default messaging protocols and stuff like that. It's far too much of an inconvenience for me to want to try it, because I'm afraid that I would screw something up and then I would not be able to get any text messages. And seeing as I don't use my phone for talking on unless I have absolutely no choice, I text everyone, I'd be in a lot of trouble, because then I would have to talk to people, and I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, you never you never pick up the phone when I call you, like today. And when I called you, you didn't pick up the phone.
That's because you go straight to voicemail.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I will say, being an iOS user with an iPhone, I will say that we don't have this problem, because, well, if we get something that doesn't work, it's because it's a bad iOS update, which happens quite a bit.
More often than we would like.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't want to screw around with anything like this. Matter of fact, iOS has its own issues of being able to text message back and forth, and I don't want to get into it right now. It just hurts my head to think about it.
iOS issues in general. I'm going to use this to launch into another thing I saw today. Did you see what's going on with iPhone 5 and older devices today?
Oh, no.
Apple has been pushing out a message, I guess, that they have to update their devices by Sunday or they're not going to work properly anymore. So they're putting like a patch out for all these earlier iPhones and devices. They require a patch by Sunday. Supposedly they've been pushing notifications out to these phones that if you don't install by Sunday, it's going to like reduce your capability or they're going to disable things because it's something weird with like a clock issue that could potentially throw things off. I only caught bits and pieces of it, but I'm like, this is the weirdest thing I've seen. I have an iPhone 5S that I use as an iPod in my car. Yeah. So 5S is okay. iPhone 5 and earlier is where the issue is.
Okay, I haven't booted up my 4s for a while since the app that I was using as a soundboard for all the shows. I used to have an iPhone 4 for each show that I did in a soundboard. I haven't booted those up for a while, so I guess I'll have to charge them up, boot them up, and patch them just to make sure that they can stay... they're not connected to any cell phone network. I wouldn't connect them to any cell phone network, but I guess they could. I don't know.
So I'm pulling up the article right now. Let's see. Apple has taken to full screen notifications urging iPhone users to upgrade to the dizzying heights of iOS 10.3.4. If they don't, their iPhone 5 basically becomes snazzier than normal calculator and can play MP3s. What they did to explain this is it's thanks to the GPS time rollover. While most devices had their own GPS D-Day on April 6th, which is their time rollover, the iPhone 5s arrives on November 3rd. So Apple explained by saying iPhone will require an iOS update to maintain accurate GPS location and continue to use functions that rely on correct date and time, including App Store, iCloud, email, and web browsing. Effectively, you need to update it, and then you can continue to use it as your daily driver if you want. I doubt anyone's really using an iPhone 5 as a daily driver, but they could be using it as a backup phone if theirs were to break or for a media consumption device.
There might be some people out there that just can't afford the phone, so they're still on it. So I'm not going to put them down for that.
They do say if you miss the deadline to update by 3 November, you'll be able to get it working again, but you have to attach your phone to a PC with a cable and do a restore there, and it will basically force the update down to the device then. So you can still get it to work, but the simplest thing to do is just acknowledge the push notification right now and update your iPhone 5 or older. This also applies to iPads. So I think it's iPad 2 is roughly analogous to iPhone 5. So if you have an iPad 2 or older, you might need to update as well.
Yeah, my daughter has one, but it doesn't do much anything. Also, do I need to update my iPod Classic?
I think your iPod Classic is still good. As long as you can turn it on, you're still good to go because those things are effectively indestructible. Now, Steven, how do you feel? Are you going to update your iPhone 5 when the time comes? He doesn't want to do it. He says Steve Jobs' company can just shove it. He's not going to update.
This is, I know you probably can't see it right now, but this is Gonna Geek episode 306 playing right now on my iPod Classic. So yeah, this actually is still working. I use it every day. You're
good to go then.
I'm worried about the battery though. I don't think there's a replacement battery, and I don't think there's a hack to replace the battery.
You can probably find a third-party one and use like the iFixit teardown guide and try and do it yourself. Those ones were supposedly relatively repairable in comparison to modern day products where you've got like peel off touch screens and stuff like that to do anything, which is atrocious and a pain in the butt.
I've kept a couple of iPhone 4s and 4S's working for a while, so I think I can tear into this, but I don't know. I'll wait until it finally breaks and then try to peter around with it for a while. Anyway, great news find, Chris. Thank you very much. I have some work to do.
Yeah. You've all been educated of the dangers you have with your iPhone 5s or older. Do your update. It should just take a little bit of time and then you're good to go. That being said, we are wrapping up the news and it's a two-man show. It means we're also going to start wrapping up the show. But before we do that, I just wanted to let folks know next week, we should all be back next week. We'll have a segment next week. It's another installment of Chris Taps That App ready to go. We're going to be talking about an iOS, Android, and PC browser-based game that I found that you can play for free that is effectively adult choose-your-own-adventure. I don't know about you guys. I love me some choose-your-own-adventure games. So we're going to talk about that next week in Chris Taps That App. But before we shut this thing down, SP, you got anything you want to share with the audience? Anything you want to plug or promote?
There's a lot of stuff going on right now, but the one thing that I want to actually plug or promote, Chris and I do a podcast with Michelle called the Starling Tribune. I know we've talked about it on this show before, what I want to say right now is we're in the end game now for Arrow. No pun intended, by the way, but we're in the end game for Arrow. This is the last season for Arrow, and we are coming up on the big Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, which is so big that it is going to be 5 hours long. It's going to encompass just about every single character in the CW Arrowverse, we'll call it, as well as other characters out there that were previously on Supernatural. We've already gotten nods that previous incarnations in the films with DC characters like Superman and Batman will be at least alluded to, if not actually showcased in the Crisis. So there's a lot going on, and we're talking about Arrow every week, but we're also talking about the other shows. And this next episode that's going to come out next week is probably going to be really special because there's a couple of key announcements that have already come out this week that we're going to be talking about on Thursday night. So that episode will be Starling Tribune episode 253. It'll be out next week. Make sure you catch it. A lot of great stuff will be in that.
There's some exciting stuff coming up in there, plus some pretty cool news stories. Just a quick tease, if you're on our Discord channel, you might have seen that there is another rumored television show for DC Comics coming to the CW universe. I'm sure we'll be talking about it on Thursday. It's one I'm probably more excited about than the Canary spinoff set in the future. But if you want to find out more, swing on by the Starling Tribune on Thursday. You can watch us live at 7:30 p.m. Eastern over on Geeks.live, or just catch the replay. But before we get out of here, I'd like to share with you folks, we have a lot of shows that stream live. You can go over to geeks.live. Yes, that is an actual URL. And you can watch any of the live shows that are on the Gonna Geek Network. You can also scroll down to the bottom of the page and get a calendar of all of our upcoming live events. So we really do encourage you guys, swing on by, check out some of our live shows, and tell them that the official GonnaGeek.com show sent you. All that being said, I think we've gotten this done pretty good. I hope the boss man's pretty happy with us when this is all said and done.
I don't care if he's happy or not. We got the show done. We got it out, and our listeners are appreciative. So thank you very much to everybody that's in our live chat, including Albert and Suncast. I know Jason Bryant's also listening. So thank you, everybody, for coming by.
That's right. So for the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Chris Ferrell saying, you stay classy, Internet.
I'm SB saying we'll see you all next week. Bye.
And this is Steven saying nothing. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.